Hey, I'm back to trying to make videos again. So, as always, my name is Eldon, and what I'm trying to do here is take some of the lessons that I've learned in my life, mostly the mistakes that I've made, and share about those so that hopefully you can learn from them without having to go through some of the same pain that I've done. Now, I'm going to try something a little different today because it's very awkward to speak to a camera. And so to try and make it sound like I'm not trying to sound smart or trying to come across like I know everything, because just some dude on the internet, right? I'm gonna also try and cook my meal prep, my breakfast sandwiches that I make. So we'll kind of cut through that. And today we're gonna talk about one of the important lessons I've learned about love relationships. The most important thing I've learned about love, it's not so much about finding the right person, it's more about being the right person or becoming the right person. You know, too often in my early years of my romantic relationships of life, I would always be worried about someone leaving me. And when you're always worried about someone leaving you because of whatever you want to call that, abandonment wounds or anxious attachment, or I don't really like those kind of labels, but you end up wanting to control things. You end up wanting to try and keep them into this area where you have a safety net and you feel comfortable with it. You know, it also reminds me of, one of my good friends. When we were younger, he started dating this girl that he was just head over heels in love with. But she had a guy friend. And yeah, maybe that guy friend was interested in her. Probably. She was very attractive. She had chosen my friend and was very committed to him. But his own insecurity caused him to constantly put pressure on her and to try and control her, to tell her that, no, you can't go out drinking. No, you can't go out and do this, or you shouldn't be friends with this person or that person. And all that eventually did was it pushed her away from him. And conversely, directly into the arms of a relationship with the guy that my friend was most afraid of. And I think that if he had just relaxed, if he had just been confident in himself and said that I know my value, I know my worth, and you'll stay with me if I'm the one that you truly desire and you see my value, then I don't think she would have. I think that she would have eventually just chosen him. But his own insecurity caused him to lose that relationship. Basically, what we're going to make today is kind of like an Egg McMuffin, but a slightly healthier version of it. So obviously you're going to need muffins. I've got 5 eggs. I've got 5 muffins because I made one already. Normally I use fat-free mozzarella, but grocery store didn't have any, so we're using a light mozzarella. And just because I like a little bit of extra protein, a little bit of ham on here too. Now, of course, the big secret for making all of these at once is that in the past, I tried to do them in a pan with using these little rings to make the perfect little eggs. Didn't work very well. It was always messy. They would leak out. What I've learned since then is the secret thing is muffin tins. I can cook them all at once. Oven's preheated to 350 degrees. I got my muffin tin here. We'll hit it with a little bit of nonstick. And while we're doing that, as I'm cracking these eggs open, talk about love relationships. So, love relationships, one of the things I've learned is sort of like having a dog. And I know that sounds bad right off the bat. Like, what the heck are you talking about, right? But, I think back to all of the pets that I've had. Most of the pets I've had have been indoor animals. So what happens when I have a dog or a cat living in the house? Well, I always have to try and keep on top of it. Worried about, is it going to try and sneak out? Because if you've ever owned a cat or a small little dog, you know that as soon as you open that front door, too many times they're trying to run out, get run over by a car. As you can see, I just cracked open 5 eggs, put them into the muffin tins. Now I'm going to hit them with a little bit of salt. Give a little bit of seasoning to it. And a little bit of black pepper. If I can get it open. And we just pop these into the oven, cooked at 350 degrees. Alexa, set a timer for 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
I like to use the analogy of 2 different dogs, to help kind of explain why this doesn't work. Most of my dogs that I've ever owned in my life have all been indoor dogs, have been the kind of dogs that we keep indoors. And I can think back to a few years ago when, I was still married. We had 2 dogs and 2 cats. And it was always this thing that every time you went to the door, you always had to try to keep an eye out for where the animals were. Because every now and then you would open that door and they would just dart running out into the street, right? They would try and get away. And it's this thing that the more you kept the dog cooped up, the more it was always enticed to want to run away, or not to really run away, but it wants to explore. It wants to break out of its boring confines. Now, contrast that to dogs that my parents have had now that they have since moved to a farm. They have had dogs and cats, and those dogs and cats, there's no fences around the house. The dogs are kept outside, but that dog always stays on the front porch. I think when they first got it ran around, it explored a little bit, but over time it learned this is where I wanted to be. When you have that sort of environment, the dog just knows that this is where I'm happiest. This is where I feel safe. This is where I'm taken care of. And yeah, I have freedom to go anywhere else in the world, but why would I want to? This is where I belong. All right, so we're just gonna open up these English muffins. So we got the English muffins out, and we'll just toss a little bit of ham onto each one of these. Is it possible that by giving somebody all of my trust and trusting them that they're that farm dog is not going to run away, is it possible that it's going to end badly for me? Yeah, it is. But wouldn't I rather know that now than just invest the next several years of my life into a relationship only to find out that they were not the person that I thought they were? Okay, so we hit 10 minutes, so let's pull our eggs out. And as you can see, they're not quite cooked all the way, but they're coming together nicely. So the last little trick here is to take a little bit of our shredded fat-free or light mozzarella and just toss a little bit of cheese into each of these little tins, just to help it kind of add some better flavor and also stick together a little bit better. Okay, put it back in the oven for about another 5 minutes. When it comes to my love relationships, that's what I've had to learn to do, is to let go of that need to feel safe, to feel control. At the end of the day, someone's going to choose you or choose me, or in whatever situation. What you want is that person to choose you out of freedom. You want that person to say that my heart knows that I belong with you. And yeah, I know there are other options out there. I know there are other things or people that I could go and do things with, but this is where I belong. I'm happiest here, and so I'm just going to stay here. All right, timer's done. Let's go ahead and pull the eggs out and assemble the sandwiches. All right. Should be able to see the eggs there. Nice and well cooked. And look at that. Perfect little egg puck. Stick it right here on each one of these. Turn the oven off. Now we're gonna let these cool down, but I put a little hot sauce on mine. So this is my favorite one right now, ghost pepper wing sauce. So we'll just sprinkle a little on top of this one here. Put it right there. Assemble the rest. Take our final one, put it onto a plate for myself, and we're good to go. And now I've got sandwiches for the rest of the week. I'll let these cool down for a little bit, then probably put them into either a Ziploc bag or wrap them in foil, put them in the fridge. When it comes time to eat them, unwrap it, put it on a paper plate, microwave it for, 30 to 45 seconds just to get it reheated. Add my hot wing sauce and then eat it. Quick, easy, and done in 15 minutes. So yeah, that's the big advice I have for you. Think about the love relationship like it's a dog. Is it a dog that you're trying to keep locked up in the house? Is it something that you are so afraid of losing that in essence you're causing it to want to try and get out? Or are you giving it enough freedom that it can willingly choose you? It's a risk. Everything in life is a risk, but anything that's really valuable in life is worth that risk. At the end of the day, if someone doesn't choose you, if you have to try and constantly be vigilant, isn't it better to have somebody that you don't have to be constantly vigilant for, that is only with you because you have set up all of these boundaries, and if you ever let your guard down for even a few minutes, they may run off and do something. Like, that's not a life that you want to have, and that's not the kind of love relationship that at least I don't want to have. I want somebody that's going to stay with me, that has total freedom and yet knows that when they look at me, they see my flaws, but they also see all of my value. Their heart screams that this is where I belong.